Hello everyone. I'm back to make my, by request, I've had requests about this, my famous Swedish meatballs. So what we're going to make, I've got some ground meat here. It's roughly about a cup or a little better. So we're going to try to do about that much. I'm measuring. I always eyeball it, but I'm going to go ahead and measure. What you really want to end up with, there's 2. This is a 4th cup, 3, and these are plain breadcrumbs. What you really want to end up with is 50-50. 50% meat, 50% ground meat, breadcrumb mixture. Okay, so I've thrown in a bunch of breadcrumbs, about 1 cup. The other thing, the reason this recipe tastes so great is you're going to use like 1 whole stick of butter, which is not good for you, but I don't make this very often. Lots of parsley. Maybe I should try to figure out how much, huh? I'll put it in a measuring spoon first. Okay, I'll just kind of lay that there. I just go by how it looks as far as color, and I want it broke up. This is actually, what I'm using is the parsley from my garden. I have it in this container, but it was from my garden. I dried it out and I keep it around. It's best would be fresh. And if fresh, I think goes a little, I just dropped some in there. So I'm going to say that's 1/4 cup. And I'm going to just, let me get a fork. Needs a little more, I think. A good heaping 1/4 cup of dried parsley to 1 cup of plain breadcrumbs. So yeah, it's good. I can tell by smelling it too. I always smell it to see how it's going to be. Okay, so to that, next I'm going to put in 1 egg. Crack that egg right kind of in the middle. Okay, and I'm going to add a couple of shots of soy sauce. This is my standard ground meat and whatever kind of breadcrumb. There's so many different dishes that have this similar thing in it. And then I'm going to break my egg up. Now before I completely distribute it, I'm also going to add, I better measure this, I'm going to add some milk. I don't even know if I need a 4th cup. I'm going to go a little less than a 4th cup. Let's see how that pans out here. So I'm just going to mix this all together. Oh, you know what else I need is a lot of onion. That's what's missing. Okay, what I've done is I've already grinded it up. Here it is. This is like 1 medium to large onion. I may not even use the whole thing here. Let's see. I should probably be measuring that. That's about a 4th cup. I love this little food processor thing I have. This it's really like a little grinder. So I'm going to say that that's maybe a 1/2 cup of onion, because those onions are going to give you a little bit of moisture too. So it's breadcrumbs, onion, and parsley. That's basically your mixture. And then the milk, you want to make a little bit of a moist. That's one of the things with meatball. You want Swedish meatball. You want moist. So I'm going to go another squirt of milk here. So I'm at a little bit over a 1/4 cup of milk. And again, I may have gone overboard on the filling. I always complete this the breadcrumb part first, and it's still just a little too not soft enough. One of the things about the meatballs is you want your breadcrumbs soft. But if I were making maybe a meatloaf, or I don't know what other, I might stop here with the liquid. But I think with the Swedish meatballs, you want to go a little more. So I'm going to say this is going to be my last squirt, I can tell you that. And I'm going to tell you that I think this was about a 1/2 cup of milk. So we got a 1/2 cup of onions, 1/2 cup milk, heaping 1/4 cup of parsley. And I think I might have gone a little overboard. So I'm going to take out a little bit of this breading just in case, but I'm going to save it because I might want to put it back in. I'm just going to take out a good heaping tablespoon. And we'll see how this looks once I get it in there. So this is just some regular ground beef. It's about 1 cup, a little bit better than a cup of ground beef. I'll get that in there too. And right now you could definitely start using your hands and your fingers, but I don't know, for this dish, for some reason, I use a fork. Other dishes I use my hands, but I don't know. This one I just want to use a fork. Okay, I'm back, and I'm just going to bring this right up in the camera so you can really see. Now you can see that parsley running through there, and you can see the breadcrumb and onion and everything. And that's, we're done. We're done with the mixing. Now what I do, I've got a little paper plate over here with some flour on it. So I'm going to just kind of scoot this flour off to one side. And then I'm going to take a small, teaspoon like this. Get a teaspoonful of meat, pull it off, give it a roll around. Then I'm going to just lightly roll it in some flour over here. Like so. And I'm actually going to put a little bit of flour on my palms too. So there's the meatballs. I'll do one more on camera. Roll it up, teaspoon. Give it a roll, toss around in the flour. Whoops. And set it in the stack. Okay, I'm going to do all of these, and I'm going to turn the camera back on when we start frying them and making the gravy. Be back in a minute. Okay, so I've got all of them. I'm going to slide the camera over here. I've got all the meatballs rolled and put in flour. And now I'm going to start frying. You always use butter. It's butter for everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get, like a tab of butter. This much. Get it in the pan and turn that heat on. Also, while we're frying up our meatballs, we're going to get our sauce going too. So I've got a saucepan. Maybe I should do it like over this way. There you go. Can you see that? Okay, so into my saucepan, I'm also going to put like 2 tabs of butter to start. So this, like I said, this is butter, butter, butter. That's why I really hardly ever eat it anymore. But it is, it's rich, very rich. Okay, so I'm going to come back. I'm going to get this butter melting, and I'm going to let's turn this fire on. I'm going to add to this a roux, but also all my drippings are going to go in there too. In the meantime, I'm going to flip back over here, and over here for my roux, I've got just a little shy of 4 cups of water, and I'm going to go ahead and just grab it because I can't get everything on camera. But what I'm doing, I'll show you in a minute. I'll put the last one in on camera. 1, 2. Okay. Put the last one on camera. 3 heaping teaspoons of flour or cornstarch you could use also. And then I'm going to also add, I've got some granulated bouillon. I'm going to put a big tablespoon, 1.5 of these big tablespoons of that into my almost nearly 3/4 cup of water. So then it'll look like this, and then I'm going to stir it around and break up the lumps. I mean, if you've seen any of my other things, you've seen me do this a bunch of times. It's the standard gravy. It's flour, water, granulated bouillon. So I'm thickening that up. Meantime, it looks like this butter's melting, so I'm going to go ahead and just give it a little swirl. It's nice and hot. You can hear it sizzle. And I'm going to just pop some meatballs in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll go with 6 to start. There's no set number. Just don't overcrowd your pan. So I'm going to get a nice roll around in the butter, and I want to get a nice crisp brown outside of them. I want the outsides to get nice and crispy brown. So I'm mixing up this gravy over here, this gravy stuff. I'm still working on it. I'm going to go ahead and just smash my lumps against the wall. Get it all broke up. Now in this case, you don't wait till the end to make it. I'm making my sauce in a separate pan. So that butter and that is already, I had 2 tabs of butter in there. It's already melted, just about. And I'm going to pour this in there too, right in the pan. Then I'm going to put this on a high heat. Well, actually, I want to add a bunch of parsley to that too. Let me move this camera over. Okay. So I can keep an eye on the meatballs and keep an eye on the sauce. So to that, I'm going to do a couple good palmfuls of parsley in there. So that would be like heaping tablespoons, I guess. Okay. Just like that. Quite a bit. The parsley is what sets it apart and gives it like a different flavor, I think. So it looks like that. There's a lot of parsley in there. Once I start stirring it around, it's not going to be as much. So I'm going to give it a stir around. And really, I'm going to bring that up to a boil and then turn it down to a simmer. I mean, that's no big deal. So right now I got it on high. I'm going to turn it up to a boil. In the meantime, over here, and what I'm going to keep doing with this gravy pan over here is I'm going to keep adding all the drippings. Every time I fry a batch of meatballs, this leftover butter and meat juice, toss it right in there. So I've got this first batch of meatballs going. I'll turn the, what you want to just do, I'm using a fork, but just kind of, it's not even ready to flip, but you just flip them around. One side, then the other. Browning them, just like you'd brown any kind of meatball, I guess. for, you know, Italian meatballs, spaghetti. These are smaller than Italian meatballs, and also the plain breadcrumbs. If I were gonna, when I used to make the Italian meatballs for the bar, I used to do the same recipe but bigger, not as much parsley, seasoned breadcrumbs, little oregano, Italian seasonings. But this is, you know, the Swedish meatballs is a little different. Okay, so I'm going to turn the camera off, get these brown, and I'll come back in a minute to show you the next step. Okay, I'm back, and these are just about done here, these meatballs. You can see they're getting a nice brown on them. And I've been just flipping them around. They're just about ready to come out. And over here my sauce, I'm just going to keep stirring it. It's not ready yet. So the sauce it takes a while, probably about a good half hour for that sauce to get thick and bubble. At least 20 minutes, I would say. So these, looks like these are just about there, these meatballs. I'm not going to dump them in. I'm going to get the meatballs out, actually. And I'm going to drain them over here off the side. Because what I do, too, is I freeze a bunch of these. I'm not going to eat them, put them all in the sauce, because I'm the only meat eater around here. So what I do is I wrap them up and I just use them for spaghetti. I freeze a couple in a baggie. And then if I'm going to have spaghetti, I'll just break them out. I know, even though they're not really Italian seasoning, but they'll do in a pinch. And I'm not going to make a big batch of Italian meatballs either. With you know, nobody eats meat, so I just save those. So either way, you would set them aside, and then you just take your drippings and keep pouring those drippings into that sauce every time. I think I even need to lower this heat a little. So on we go, and I'm just going to keep rolling on through. Here's another batch, another pat of butter. Then I'm going to load the pan with meatballs and brown them, and I'm going to keep going until, you know, I get through this whole thing here. I've got all these meatballs to go. So I'm going to keep going, and I'll turn the camera back on when we get to the next step, which is going to be when the gravy gets thickened and cooled down. Then we'll add the meatballs back into the gravy, and we'll simmer for about 20 minutes. But let's, I'm going to keep frying. I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, I'm back, and I've got all the gravy is nice and thick. It's not quite real thick because it's going to cook it down even a little bit more. It's going to cook for about a half hour. I've got it on a real low heat here on a simmer, and it's going to simmer for about a half hour with the meatballs in. Here's what I did. I packed up a lot of them because I'm going to freeze them. But this is how many I'm just going to make in here. So just going to put them down in there. You don't want all the stuff splattering all over. So now I'm just going to put them all down in the gravy. Just going to dump them in. Okay, so I'm going to put them all down in the gravy, and I'm going to cook this on a slow simmer for about a half hour. Just thicken that gravy up a little bit more. I'll give you a look at what it looks like now. And then it's going to be the awesome Swedish meatballs, and I'm going to serve them over a little bit of potato with Swedish meatballs on top. It's going to be super awesome. Okay, I'll show you the very last thing in a minute. Okay, we're back, and the meatballs are done. Now, if you wanted to, you could stir in some, you know, some sour cream or something, but I think they're just perfect like this, nice and thick, and a nice thick gravy. I'm going to spoon them over a little bit of mashed potatoes with corn, and it's going to be marvelous. Try it at home.